Hello everyone and welcome back to Science. I am here again at Zoo Montana bringing you a life science lesson. Today we're going to talk about the standard 3.ls.1. I can construct an argument that some animals form groups that help members survive. So some things that they wanted us to think about with this standard is being a part of a group helps animals obtain food, defend themselves, and cope with changes. And another thing that they want us to think about is groups may serve different functions and vary dramatically in size. So today we're here with our gray wolves here. If you can see them right over my shoulder, they're just taking naps, sunbathing. And I wanted to talk about wolves because they very typically live in packs. If you guys have heard the saying lone wolf, that actually comes from the pack mentality of wolves. So like I said, wolves live in groups that are called packs. And something to talk about with wolves and their groups is kind of their hierarchy. So that means that there are almost assigned titles to these wolves. So there are alpha wolves, there are beta wolves, there are alpha females and males, and that really impacts the whole group. So within this group, there are people that know their place and they know their roles, and they all act differently to help them survive. So one thing I really wanted us to think about is the size of wolves and maybe the things that they eat. So wolves are going to be a little bit bigger than our dogs. If we're thinking about something like, we could think about a husky. They're going to be a little bit bigger than a husky, but then we need to think about the food that wolves are going to eat. They're gonna go after buffalo and elk, and they're pretty big animals that they're going after. So living in a group, wolves are able to kill the food that they need to survive while working together. And while having these roles, the wolves know what they should do to go ahead and obtain their food. So that's one way that wolves living in groups help them, is them being able to eat. Another way is they kind of communally raise their pups. So a really cool thing about packs of wolves is chances are they're a little bit of family. Somehow their bloodlines have crossed over. They might be cousins, they might be brothers, they might be sisters, but they're one big family in that pack. And with that, they're able to look over the young, and that means they're able to kind of preserve their pack for longer. So they're able to raise the young so that maybe one day they could become the alpha. And with more parents looking over the young, they're more likely to survive when there are also things hunting the wolves. Not only are they hunting, but they're being hunted. So living in a pack protects them and protects that family structure for them. So now I want to challenge you guys to think about wolves in the zoo versus wolves in the wild. So everything that I just talked about was the pack mentality to help them survive the wild, to help survive the circle of life, the food chain, all that stuff. Now I want you to think about how life looks a little differently for our wolves right here. They're not having to hunt to get their food, and they're not being hunted either. So why would our wolves here at the zoo not need to have the structure of having a pack? Obviously we have oh my goodness gracious, you guys, we have two wolves here at the zoo. So we could say that it's a group of wolves, but I don't think we would call them a pack. There's not going to be an alpha or a beta, and they're not going to have that structure. So I want you to think about why they wouldn't need that here at the zoo and kind of expand on that a little bit. I kind of already gave you some hints, but I want you to think about how they get their food. I want you to think about some dangers they might be in. And then I also want you to think about reproduction. So here at the zoo, that's something that they take pretty seriously, and most of the animals here are unable to reproduce. That's because this is a place for animals that either weren't going to be able to survive in the wild anymore, were born in captivity and could never enter the wild, or that needed a safe space to live the rest of their lives. And a few of our animals are part of breeding groups or breeding projects to help bring their populations back up. But the zoo is very careful to not breed their animals, because this isn't a place for people to come and pet cute baby wolves. It's a place to learn about things like wolf packs and what they look like and what they do. So think about these wolves here, they're not going to reproduce. So how does not having a pack, how is that okay for them? So those are some questions for you to think about. So now I have some challenge questions for you. I want you to take this one step further and think about our grizzly bears here at the zoo. Why do grizzly bears not live in groups or packs in the wild? What things about them make them not live like that? I also want you to take it even further, and I want you to think about animals other than wolves and bears, and I want you to find one animal that lives in a group, and I want you to tell me 2 reasons why this helps them. So think about some of the reasons we talked about wolves living in groups and how it helped them, and then I want you to apply this to different animals. This might take some outside research, or you might know right off the top of your head an animal that lives in a group. You might need to talk to mom, dad, brothers, sister, grandpa, uncle, anyone, but come up with an animal that lives in a pack or a group and talk about 2 reasons why that makes things easier for them. On the opposite side, I want you to think about an animal that lives by themselves, not a wolf or a bear, and I want you to talk about why this animal lives by themselves. So some different things that they do for their survival, maybe their prey and some of their dangers in their life, and what makes them be able to live as animals alone.